taking the 9-1 advantage already from the first half of the battle. You know, it was pretty much barring a spin or a massive error from McKeever, which he didn't make.
And as I said,
it's game over.
If you look at it this way, out of the 8 drivers remaining, we have Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, and Australia still in the mix. So that's pretty impressive. A big mix of drivers there. Who's going to take it home? And as I said, 2 guys there that could take down 14 years of history: Martin Richards and Mitch Lerner.
Yes, and both of those drivers, you know, with a massive capability of doing so as well. These aren't, you know, your average driver. A wealth of experience that both of them are bringing to the table here.
Yeah,
certainly a massive desire, especially for, you know, Mitch Lerner. He has such belief in his own ability, and you know, we're starting to see why this weekend. Topping qualifying, and he's gone through Brian Egan already as well to get himself into the Grade 8. He's coming up against TJ Burney now in the first of our Grade 8 battles.
Yeah,
if he was to get through that, he is one step closer to a potential podium finisher.
Yeah, and a podium that he's been hunting since he arrived here last year, Eddie, at Watergrasshill, and he's brought back an amazing machine. He's worked really hard. He's flown across the world, and I think Mitch Lerner, and then Martin Richards, I mean, you can never count him out. How many podiums has he had in Europe over the years? Definitely regarded in probably the top 10 of all drivers in Europe, or at least the top 20. He's definitely in the mix for Driftworks, and he's a contender. Then you still have all these other guys that we've counted out in the past, even counted out when we looked at that top 16 sheet, and they're still right in the mix. Paul McCarthy, Pete Nielsen, TJ Burney, Connor Shanahan, Dennis Murphy. They're not going to go down without a fight today.
No, certainly not. And when you think that Dwayne McKeever, who's still in the competition, could he win this round? Could he win the final round? You know, we didn't expect Jack to go out so early. The pressure will be on in that final round, and who knows what could happen.
So here we go. It is going to be
Dwayne McKeever be in with a chance of, you know, competing for the title at the final round.
Who knows? Anything can happen. This is really shaking it up here at round 4. Mitch Lerner and TJ Burney. TJ Burney gives away about he's half the horsepower disadvantage, but it's in the rain. TJ Burney's a fighter, but can he take down the thunder from down under? Mitch Lerner as they throw it into the first corner. What is going to happen? Lerner throws it in on big angle and has to stall up a little bit, but he is in the game. Is he staying on lock? Perfect from Mitch Lerner, but TJ Burney still in the fight. Both guys dropping tire pressures. TJ Burney sacrificing a small bit of line here as they turn into that second hairpin, and Lerner washes a little bit wide as Burney now tries to chase him out, and Burney gets stuck out, not getting the grip, and Lerner starts to pull the gap here.
Yeah, Lerner starting to pull the gap, but you've seen a lot more straight lining through those mid-sections of the track as guys struggle to keep angle and keep the power down, but the gap really starting to become significant here as TJ struggling to bring the fight. And it looks as though Mitch Lerner, no issues with this wet weather whatsoever. The guys in Perth were right.
But you know what the funny thing is? Mitch Lerner is at about 2,000 RPM going around that track. He is barely even in the revs trying to keep the grip and not overspin the wheels to have no grip. That's a clever driver right there. That's a guy who knows exactly what he's doing. And I mean, could an Australian beat the Irish in the rain? That'd be even more spectacular. But right now it looks like he may carry an advantage, and he does, guys. An advantage of 6.2 to 3.8 from you guys.
Yeah, good lead run there from Mitch. TJ just didn't really have proximity. Had it a little bit at the start, but it kind of fell away and never really regained it. And the only bit of proximity he did maintain was by actually really shutting up his line, especially between the second hairpin and third hairpin. He had a bit of a straight in there, so he's trying to gain back proximity. Not enough. So at the moment, for us, I think it's a 6-4 to Mitch.
So Mitch Lerner has the advantage. He's in the chase position. That's exactly where you can pick up the most amount of points. But I'm not guaranteeing anything today, Eddie, because anything can happen. We've seen upsets all day. The minute you think it's going one way, it goes exactly the opposite. But can Lerner get himself into the top 4? Will TJ Burney keep himself in the fight?
Yeah, these drivers will just be looking to take it one run at a time now. TJ's washed a little bit wide, but manages to bring that back in. And a bit of a straighten there from Mitch Lerner. But again, just look at the proximity now that these two guys are maintaining together. And TJ, well, could we see TJ Burney start to open up a gap here? Again, just drivers struggling to get on angle. Big straight lining through those long, straight sections of the course as they just battle perilously with these horrible conditions that we're experiencing here.
And Lerner is right there in the game, a little bit straight, but you know what? He's got a little bit more proximity, and that might just be enough to do it here.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to a very fine margin. And could that proximity at the very end of the circuit be enough for Mitch Lerner to take it through to his very first Final Four?
So the scores are in. Will it be an Australian or an Irishman to go through to the Final Four here? Guys, give it up for Mitch Lerner and TJ Burney. Scores are in. And going through to the Final Four is... it's Mitch Lerner! Mitch Lerner goes through to the Final Four. We have an Australian in the Final Four for the first time. Back to you guys, talk us through it. Not easy to get proximity out there, but Mitch doing a good job.
Yeah, Mitch did keep with the proximity. There's a few little mistakes while doing it. It wasn't quite enough to give a proper advantage through that run. But at the same time, Bernie's lead, a few mistakes again. It sort of basically brought it even. And from the first run there, with 6-4 to Lerner, obviously he took the whole run from there.
So Mitch Lerner will take it through to the Final Four, and at this point in time, he is hunting the first ever international victory on Irish soil. And at this stage now, as far as I can see, he is looking like one of the strongest contenders on the grid. Eddie, there you have it. He's in one step closer. Final Four.
Yeah, it's step by step for Mitch Lerner. He has 2 shots at the podium. He's going to be coming up against Martin Richards or Dennis Murphy for a shot at the final.
I mean, you could say that if he won today, Australia has taken all of our young people and our streak.
Yes.
Like,
and our best young people as well.
Oh yeah, give them back.
Yeah.
Let them go drifting. Or don't stop sending your good guys here. It's not a fair trade.
That's it.
So next up is another international. It is the UK driver Martin Richards in the Driftworks R32 going up against Dennis Murphy, who's just from, just down the road, and he would love to take down Martin Richards and have a go at Mitch Lerner, but Martin Richards has been yet to be eliminated this weekend and looking very strong. Let's see which way it goes.
Yeah, Richards lead them in. Big weight transfer there for Martin Richards, just showing how confident he is, but running a little bit wide. Oh, they make contact and keep it together. What about that for a first corner from Dennis Murphy and Martin Richards? Oh, they almost come together again. What about the aggression here from Dennis Murphy in the chase position? He is gunning for the door of Martin Richards, but Martin Richards keeping it together and seems to be doing a good job keeping on his line. Look at this. Wheel to wheel, door to door as they come through the final section here now. Can Dennis Murphy make one final dive? He certainly can, but Martin Richards is unfazed. Cork, put your hands together. 2 guys giving it their absolute all. Martin Richards, Dennis Murphy. Wow, what about that, Dave? An incredible, incredible run here. Look at this first corner here. How they managed to keep this going is just beyond me.
Yeah, Dennis Murphy. I don't know what he had for breakfast this morning, but give me a bowl because he is absolutely flying. How he didn't make contact here. Look at that. Dennis Murphy all over Martin Richards there, and you know what, trying to keep Irish pride intact here and have only one threat to the podium, which is Mitch Lerner at the moment. But, I mean, Dennis Murphy, he's like a dog with a bone. He just goes out there and puts it on every time. Interesting to see which way the judges are going to call it. Dennis does make some mistakes in the chase position, trying to stay as close as he does. Martin a little bit more calculated, but you got to respect that aggression.
Yeah, you really have to respect that aggression, especially in these conditions. Judges' scores starting to drop in, and it looks as though with the slightest of advantages, it will be Martin Richards. So talk us through the decision, guys.
Yeah, so Richards' lead was actually pretty good, very slow, but again, conditions you can't really sort of deduct for the slowness there. Murphy, as aggressive as he was, it was a terribly messy chase all the way up to the first hairpin there. He was off of several clipping points, not particularly doing very well. He did gain back some proximity, which possibly brought the disadvantage back a little bit, but then dived off of one of the last clips just towards into the final hairpin to gain a bit more proximity, but we finished off with an advantage to Richards due to the strong lead run there.
So an advantage to the UK driver. Could we have 2 internationals in the top 4, which would definitely put the streak at risk and guarantee that one of them will be in the final, Eddie, and that means we will come down to the final runs of the day to decide 14 years of history. That's what's happening right now. Or can Dennis Murphy take an advantage? Can he fight back for the Irish here?
Irish pride at stake as they leave the line. It will be Murphy to lead in Richards, but look at the gap that's opened up here.
Dennis Murphy just threw that in and did not care any. He went for it. He's going for a fast run here to try and outrun Richards, and right now it's working as Richards has to sacrifice clipping points to get back into the fight.
Yeah, Richards nowhere to be seen here. A little bit of a wash wide there from Dennis Murphy to open the door, but a big straighten from Richards as he's completely offline. Could we see this one turned around in the favor of Dennis Murphy? Could we see Dennis Murphy go up against Mitch Lerner in the final four?
Richards just has no answer here, Eddie, for the speed of Dennis Murphy. I think he might just have taken this one back for the Irish. Let's see which way it goes. It's very, very close, I'd imagine. With the advantage to Richards on the first, has Murphy done enough on the second? And the scores are in. Guys, can we get a round of applause out there in tough conditions for Dennis Murphy and Martin Richards? So will it be a UK driver or will it be an Irish driver in the final four to go up against Mitch Lerner, the Australian? The results are in. And going to the final four is Dennis Murphy! Dennis Murphy goes to the final four at round 4 of the Irish Drift Championship. Guys, give it up for Martin Richards. He had a tough...
Dennis Murphy was taking the swing for Martin Richards.
I thought he was going to take off into orbit there, Eddie, because he just jumped. But we got to come back to the judges on that one.
Yeah, Dennis had a really good pace there on that one. He seems to have a lot of grip. The only error I did see from over that complete run was he washed a little bit wide after clip 6 there on the first hairpin, went a little bit wide before going back, but he was on line for the rest of it. Martin just didn't have proximity. He missed clip 3 and 4 with shallow up his transition to try and make back. And then as he came through clip 6 on the first hairpin, he was really tight in on the hairpin on the exit and actually straightened up as he headed up the straight before he could get back on drift again. A lot of big errors. He did gain back a bit of proximity near the end, but a lot of that was down to the shortcuts he had taken. So what he lost there, Dennis overtook with his point score after the first run, so he took the advantage.
So the UK eliminated from the competition. We have one Australian and one Irishman in the top 4. Next up, we have a Pro-Am driver in Conor Shanahan, who's just 14 years of age, on the right-hand side of the screen in the Westlake Tire Link Engine Management 180. He goes up against the supercharged M3 of Paul McCarthy, and they call him the Giant Killer. This is a 50-50 if I've ever seen it, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, they're all 50-50s at this stage. But look at this, Paul McCarthy. Does Paul McCarthy have an issue with the car, or is he just stuck for pace here?
I think that's an issue with the car there. He missed the gear on the run-up. He missed the gear. Paul McCarthy missed the gear. No such worries in Shanahan's as he has a sequential in there. And Paul McCarthy missing a gear has put him out of the race for at least the first half. Oh, Shanahan! Shanahan shuts down! Shanahan shuts down!
Just when you thought Shanahan was going to take a massive advantage.
Eddie, what's going on? What's happening? Just when we said he was out of the game, Paul McCarthy may have taken the advantage there. I'm not sure what happened to Shanahan's car. It looks like both Shanahans suffering mechanical issues today. And, I mean, I can't call it anymore. This is just, look at this damage to it. Look, you can see the rear bumper bar absolutely bent as Paul McCarthy, no fault of his own, and just slams into the back of Conor Shanahan's car. And, I mean, this is the type of day that you worry for the streak. It's the type of day that you worry for your championship contenders. You worry for every guy on the grid because anything can happen at any time.
Do you know what, though? I'm not worried about the streak.
No, I mean, for me,
I hope it goes.
We could do it the streak going home at some point, but look at this. Shanahan, we just thought all of a sudden McCarthy misses a gear, it's all over, it's finished. Shanahan's going to leave him. And then something goes wrong in Shanahan's car. He shuts it down. And that gives a 10-0 advantage to Paul McCarthy after the first run. And I think this may be a weekend to forget for the Shanahans. They've had so many glorious weekends throughout Ireland and the UK, but they're just not having the luck today. But
no,
again,
but a lot of we still have the second half of this battle left to go, and nothing is certain with these weather conditions. What I will say is we are guaranteed to have at least one driver, Mitch Lerner or Dennis Murphy, in their first ever IDC final, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah. The other one will be contesting for a 3rd and 4th place playoff and a shot at a podium, which again, for both of those drivers, is a massive result. The first time that they would have had that opportunity. So really great things to see for those two camps.
Yeah, and Paul McCarthy, I mean, he would have said halfway around that first corner, it's all over.
Oh, certainly, yeah. You know, missing a gear, so unfortunate on the way up the straight, but he would not have expected Shanahan to have any issues
And you can see it here again on the replay. Look at McCarthy. He's probably saying, I've lost this. He's gone. There's no way I can catch his car. It's all over. And as they switch back, this is where just Conor Shanahan maybe drops the gear. Maybe, I'm not sure what happens, but bang, the car just shuts down. McCarthy runs into him. Lucky not to do damage to the front of his car, Paul McCarthy, if not doing damage to the front of his car. It's just so hard to call, right? You just don't know which way it's going to go. So they're back on the start line. We will see the second half of this battle. McCarthy 1 foot in the door of the top 4, but can Shanahan put on the chase run of a lifetime at 14 years of age and all that pressure to keep the pride of the Shanahans alive? It's McCarthy to lead in Shanahan. You can guarantee Conor's coming for blood here.
Yeah, he's going to have to try and force the error. And he's right where he needs to be, making the dive down the inside. Oh, look at this precision driving from both guys. Just feathering the throttle as they come out of that first corner now, switching it back. Nice lead run here from Paul McCarthy, nailing that line. And Shanahan maintains proximity, but he needs to be that little bit more aggressive. Big straighten there for McCarthy as he exits that first tight hairpin.
And we always say it in the wet, Paul McCarthy is so tough to catch. Watch this, half the horsepower and leaving Shanahan for dead here, because whatever way he set that BMW up in the rain, it is so hard to catch. And Paul McCarthy looking like a very strong contender to take top spot today.
Yeah, looking at it, Dave, these guys that are coming through and place themselves in the final 4, really driving very steady and very consistent in the wet weather. I think we're going to have some really hot battles on our hands.
I mean, Lerner against Murphy, but who is going to go through from this one? The scores are in. And going through to the final 4 is Paul McCarthy! Paul McCarthy goes through to the final 4. You can see how much it means to him, Eddie, after such a terrible start to the season. He's back in the mix. And that 10-0 from the first battle, essentially wiping out any chance for Conor Shanahan in the second half. But it means McCarthy will go up against the winner of Nielsen or McKeever. That is our last top 8 battle. Guys, give it up for the 14-year-old phenom, Conor Shanahan. Look, not with him today. We'll see him back in action at Japfest in September. And of course, you'll see him fighting almost right to the top of the championship in Pro of the British Drift Championship. And he'll be in action in Driftland in 2 weeks. And I'm sure definitely the Shanahans will be back with a bang there. Of course, they're running 10 events this year. Very tough to keep those cars going all the time, Eddie, and just letting them down at the wrong time today.
Yeah, very unfortunate that. And, you know, just as what happens in motorsports, sometimes when you need your car to work best for you most, it doesn't, and it lets you down. And that's what we're seeing today. Now, this will be a very enjoyable battle for these two guys. I love the fact that they're coming up against each other. Pete and Nielsen would like nothing more than to take down Dwayne McKeever.
Yeah, if Pete Nielsen beats Dwayne McKeever, we will never hear the end. We'll never hear the end of it. In 70 years' time, he'll be sitting at a fucking pub somewhere going, "I beat Dwayne McKeever."
Language, Dave.
It's just getting out of control here. Here we go. Pete Nielsen, Dwayne McKeever, what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, Pete to lead them in as the higher qualifier, which you would not expect. Dwayne McKeever right there with him, though. Look at this precision from both drivers. You wouldn't think it was wet out there with the way they're driving. Now when we see a big dive from McKeever, oh, big slowing there from Pete and Nielsen. But McKeever handles it perfectly.
Nielsen bogging down a lot there, Eddie, not even on drift as he came out of that corner. McKeever now starting to force the issue.
Yeah, a lot of drivers struggling coming as they exit that corner to get back on angle. McKeever maintaining proximity here, staying with Nielsen.
Yeah, it's just, I think for me, Pete Nielsen out of the the first hairpin, making a big error. Just couldn't keep the car spinning, obviously dropping those tire pressures as low as possible to try and get as much grip. But these guys doing a good job. McKeever looks very good though, Eddie. Looks very strong in the wet. And it shows in the scoring as Dwayne McKeever takes an advantage here. Guys, looking very strong. Dwayne adapting to those conditions.
Fantastic lead around by Pete. Unfortunately, he just had a mistake coming between the first hairpin and the second hairpin. It was like the car just dropped off in boost, and he had a little bit of a straighten. That was the only real fault in his lead. Dwayne's chase run was fantastic for the conditions. Really good proximity, but dropped off for kind of the second half of the track. He was making dives to just gain that proximity, but it wasn't enough to take a sizable advantage, especially with such a good lead run from Pete. And so overall, around a 6-4 advantage going into the second run.
So the rain has stopped momentarily here in Watergrasshill. It is going to be a wet track right to the finish, but Dwayne Dwayne McKeever now in the lead. Pete Nielsen's going to have to pull off the run of a lifetime here. And you know what? I think he knows that himself.
Yeah, I think he'll know, and I think he'll relish the opportunity to try and go close and put it on the door of Dwayne McKeever here. He knows that this will be his best opportunity to ever do it with the conditions slightly in his favour. However, we are seeing Dwayne McKeever handle the wet conditions like an absolute master. It doesn't seem to matter wet or dry for him. He's well able to put the car exactly where he wants to. Here we go into the first corner. Big gap opens up.
Yeah, Dwayne McKeever watching a little bit wide there and allowing Pete Nielsen back into the fight. Now can Pete force the issue? He's definitely going close here as they almost come together on the transition. And Pete Nielsen now makes another dive onto Dwayne McKeever's door. And McKeever taking a very wide line and bogging down. And Pete almost getting caught on the inside there. Very
interesting. Pete almost with an overtake, having to back off there, doing the right thing. But serious proximity as Dwayne making a bit of an error. Now the gap starts to open up. Pete needs to make a bit of a dive just to cement a little bit of a thought into the minds of the judges to try and claw back that disadvantage. Could we see this one going to a one more run? Certainly,
that was interesting.
I think Pete gave it everything.
Yeah, Dwayne washes a little bit wide on that first corner, has to slow it up. He comes in on a lot of angle and he sort of has to stall a little bit here to get himself back online. Pete Nielsen doing the right thing. This is where it gets interesting as they come to that first hairpin. When they switch back, Dwayne is on the perfect line. Pete gets caught a little bit, but again, gets back on his line. Now watch Dwayne as he comes out of this hairpin. Sort of washes wide, loses onto that wet line and sort of stalls up, can't get out of the corner. But does make the clipping points, and Pete almost getting stuck in the middle, having to straighten. So could go either way from the judges there.
Dwayne completely missing that inner clipping zone, and Pete on the clipping zone, I suppose. So is Peden's line then impeded by McKeever?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, this is just when it's so wet and so difficult, the judging becomes difficult, and it's probably going to be a close one right to the end here. So the judges deliberating over this one. Both drivers. Guys, round of applause for Pete Nielsen and Dwayne McKeever. Putting on a show. Will it be Pete Nielsen? Will it be Dwayne McKeever? We have an answer. It's neither. We're going one more run.
And you can see what it means to both drivers.
But here's the thing, Eddie, if I'm not mistaken, Pete Nielsen's the higher qualifier.
He gets
to choose whether he wants to lead or chase in this one more run. And he's chosen to lead.
Very interesting that he's
Very
chosen
interesting.
to lead.
Pete Nielsen has chosen to lead against Dwayne McKeever.
One of the best chase drivers in the business.
That's not what I would do.
Certainly not, considering he had just did a phenomenal job in the chase position, hunting the door.
But we got to go back to the judges. We've balanced this one off. We're going for one more run, guys. Talk us through it.
It was a good chase there by Pete. And okay, we'll talk about the first corner. Dwayne is really good through clip one, but he washes a little bit wide off of clip two. Okay, and then that pushes him wide before he gets to clip three. Pete comes in a little bit tighter than he could after clip one as he heads towards two, so that's a slight little error there too. But it puts him in a better position to be able to get back on Dwayne's door as they go through clip three. Pete has a really nice transition behind Dwayne through 4 and 5, and is right on Dwayne's door as they go into the first hairpin. But then Dwayne washes really wide, and Pete is on the line where he could go out to clip 6 or to clip 7, but he can't because Dwayne is so far offline, has taken so long to get traction to get it back out of there that Pete has to actually shut off, and that completely compromises Pete by no fault of his own. That was Dwayne's fault for being so wide there. So from there on then there's just more or less kind of proximity from there on. So it was enough to overturn, I think, to the advantage Dwayne had on the first one.
I mean, so last year Pete Nielsen in Watergrasshill takes Jack Shanahan to it one more time. This year he takes Dwayne McKeever to a one more run. Pete Nielsen's still in the fight here. He's chosen to lead. I'm not sure if that's the right decision already. Maybe he knows something we don't, because he's given the best chase driver in the game, Dwayne McKeever, a big opportunity here.
He certainly is, and I tend to agree with you, Dave. I would have gone with the chase position. You look at over the 2 runs, that's where he gained his advantage. He had a severe disadvantage on his initial lead run.
I'm not too sure this is going to be in the balance. Remember, there's only one run to decide. There must be a winner.
Maybe he feels like he has a little bit more pace in this one, but look at this, side by side as they enter through the first corner. McKeever right on the rear quarter. Inch perfect there from both drivers. Switching it back now, and look at this, the proximity from McKeever. And I'm starting to feel, Dave, as though Pete Nielsen has made the incorrect decision, because barring a big mistake, it looks as though a slight advantage would go the way of McKeever here for the proximity that he has on Chase. Peden certainly laying it down in the lead position, not doing a whole lot wrong, mind you, but
he's almost given Dwayne McKeever a perfect opportunity to chase, because he's put in such a solid lead run. McKeever and Nielsen take it across the line. Guys, give him a round of applause. So if you want to take Dwayne McKeever one more run with 338 horsepower, it is possible. But who will take the win is the question. And who will go to the final four to face Paul McCarthy. And the winner, and going through, so I thought we had a winner, but we're waiting for the scores. And they are in. And going through to the final four is Dwayne McKeever! Guys, give it up for Pete Nielsen. What a show he put on today. Goes to show you don't need all you need is a smile and 338 horsepower, and you can get to the top 8 and take Dwayne McKeever for a one more run. Judges, I presume an obvious one there. Excellent chase from Dwayne McKeever.
Awesome lead run by Peden there, like he's been doing all day, and he really couldn't do any more on the qualifying line the whole way throughout, but Dwayne was just right on his door. Great proximity the whole way throughout, backing off when he needed to so he didn't get caught up, and right on his door then all the rest of the time. So Dwayne came away with an advantage for that one, and Dwayne taking the win overall.
So here we stand with 4 drivers remaining. Mitch Lerner from Australia will go up against Dennis Murphy, and Paul McCarthy will go up against Dwayne McKeever. Could have called it from the start, Eddie.
yeah, that's what we had.
That's what we had, yeah, right. And all the scribbles beside. Okay, so can an Australian, for the first time in Irish drift history, the first time in 14 years, make it to a final? Can he take down 14 years of history? Can he be the first out of 120 odd drivers that have come here to do it?
Would you say he's the down underdog?
He's
Wow. I'm sorry.
Or will Dennis prove to be the menace? No, we're giving up. It's late in the day. Right,
day.
let's go to it. It's a final 4 battle. Watergrasshill, are you still with us? Okay, it's Mitch Lerner, Dennis Murphy, a spot in the final up for grabs. It's treacherous, it's tricky, but they're going to go in hot and hard into that first corner. Here we go. Lerner throws it on very big angle and has to make a big adjustment, and he almost spins. And does he spin? He does. Does Lerner spin out? It looked like he was over-rotating. Murphy hit him. And the judges go, oh, we got to decide this one now, so they got to look at it. And has Mitch Lerner thrown the chance away? Not just for Australia, but for the internationals. Let's look at it again. He's very, very much on big angle there. It looks to me like he's gone. It looks to me like he's almost gone there.
It does look like he's way offline, and he's having to slow significantly to try and get that car back on the qualifying line.
It's just there. He probably just slows very dramatically because he's on so much angle. Dennis Murphy looks like not really given an option of anything to do, because the car in front of him, that's an acceleration zone through the track, and he was slowing. So I'm wondering, is that the way the judges will go with it? And the scores are in it. It is. It's a 10-0 to Dennis Murphy. 10-0 to Dennis Murphy. Judges, talk us through it.
And basically, Mitch just on entry there came in way too hot, dialed on way too much angle, and you can see that he was just over-rotating. Murphy had nowhere to go, trying to avoid Mitch, and we deemed that to be completely Mitch's fault. 10-0 advantage to Murphy going into the second run.
And we've just received word that Mitch Lerner has broken a tie rod on the front of his car. He is not having, he's having a bit of
an easy day.
No, he went on fire, he's broken a tie rod, he beat Brian Egan, then he beat TJ Burney, then he's back sort of struggling again, back on a 5-minute rule again. You can see hands on his head. I think there's an acknowledgement there that he pushed a little too hard into that first corner, but he's definitely trying. And we really want to see him in the IDC every round, because he brings such a show.
Yeah, he really does, and you can't not respect somebody that comes all the way from Australia for a whole season to try and compete and try and take down a streak, and someone that has, he's not just coming here to take part and just to make up the numbers. He's coming here with that desire to win. He has the ability. it looked as though, and you know, he's not out of this one yet, Dave. He does have a 10-0 disadvantage, but if they can get this car going within 5 minutes, you know, who's to say that this one couldn't go to a one more run? Who's to say that he couldn't overturn it and get a 10-0 advantage in his favour on the second run?
For sure, just going to explain our rules here in the 5 minute rules, and of course you get 1 to 5 minute rule from top 24 until top 4. If you make the top 4, you unlock another 5 minute rule. So Mitch Lerner will take both, even though he's lucky that he made the top 4, or else he would have been out at this stage. But he does have another 5 minute rule once you make it to the top 4, and they're having a look at the steering on that car, knowing that they need the flat bed recovery to essentially get that into the pits. So Mitch Lerner out on track, and you can see that the car once again being recovered from the circuit to make sure that the car is. So it may be a case of us moving along to our next semi-final, which will be Paul McCarthy and Dwayne McKeever. And on paper, Dwayne McKeever looking very strong, but Paul McCarthy's car, especially in the wet, Eddie, has been very tough to beat in these conditions in the past. And we've seen Paul McCarthy take outright wins at these events when they sort of, a little bit of rain comes down.
You can never count out the McCarthy brothers. And Paul McCarthy, he is back on form. He is coming up against Dwayne McKeever, but he will not be fazed by that. And, you know, we saw Pete and Nielsen pushing Dwayne McKeever to a one more time. And, you know, I wouldn't doubt that Paul McCarthy could do something similar and maybe go that one step further and take the win here.
Yeah, so Dwayne McKeever and Paul McCarthy will line it up. This is an interesting one because usually you go, you know, Dwayne's in such good form, he's so strong. The one thing is, like, even though there's a 10-0 disadvantage to Mitch Lerner, and it does look like it's an uphill battle now to beat the streak, he has proved himself so strong this weekend. He's definitely, and we always question, especially the internationals, whether they can hang when it gets wet or gets difficult. He certainly can. But the rain has stopped. We can start to see some parts of the circuit start to dry a little bit. This is going to be very patchy. This is going to be a test of their resolve here, because I don't think they can even see in front of Dwayne's car. It's starting to dry there. So this is going to be an unknown for the rest of this day.
This adds a complete new element as well now that we have wet patches, dry patches, and you know, it makes for interesting watching. Who can handle the elements that bit better? Who can take it into the final?
You got to say, we know Dwayne McKeever is going to be on the door of Paul McCarthy, or at least that's what we expect. But Paul McCarthy is a great chase driver, and could he do the unthinkable and take down the current IDC champion? You talk about drifting, you talk about everything about, oh, you have to have this car to be competitive, or you have to spend this amount of money, or you have to do this. Paul McCarthy sits within one step of the final with a car that he says doesn't spend more a year than €5,000 on. That's the truth. That's what he says. He said he does this for fun. He says he can just be as competitive because he knows he's good enough to do it. That's a massive turning point, I think, for a lot of guys watching on, saying, I have to spend this, I have to do this, I have to have big budgets, I have to have all this. We have a man like Paul McCarthy who has more wins than Shane O'Sullivan. That's a fact if you look back at history.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at it, it's down to driver style, but very much so driver knowledge as well, setting up those cars very well, understanding the importance of setup over power.
It is, of course, and Mitch Lerner's car is recovered onto the truck. We'll, of course, see him back out. He's calling his 5-minute rule back in the pits. And again, he's been recovered twice from the track within the top 24 to the top 4, so he's having a tough day at the races. He even heard him mention that it's like an Irish curse every time he comes here. But every single event, he gets closer and closer. Do not be surprised if we see this guy on the podium at Jaff Fest later in the year. If not, he could even overturn what's going on.
Well, he might still podium here, you know, just because he may not get to the final, but he will still have a shot at third place.
For sure. And, you know, he goes up against Dennis Murphy in the second half of his battle. If he makes that 5-minute rule, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's up against it to try and get into the final, but I think if he came away with a podium, and even a 4th-place finish here, he'd say an opportunity lost possibly, but certainly a hell of a lot gained this weekend in terms of knowing that he is definitely has that capability to go all the way here. So guys, as he makes his way off the track, hit him with a wall of sound, put your hands together, show your appreciation for him. So unfortunate to have a disadvantage after the first run due to contact and mechanical.
Yeah, give him a round of applause, guys. He's struggling today. But the Irish fans getting behind him and making sure that he knows they appreciate him taking all this effort to come all the way from Australia. And we all wanted to see him take that top spot today, because we've been talking about this streak for so bloody long, Eddie. And we know it's always fun when someone comes along out of the blue. Maybe not the biggest name in world drifting, but he's one of the hardest working and most aggressive guys. But he's at a big disadvantage at the moment. And Dennis Murphy will have to keep the focus now if he can make it to his first ever IDC final. Incredible. And it switches across to the other side. It is McCarthy and McKeever. McKeever goes in as the favorite. He goes in as the current champion. McCarthy goes in as a man with something to prove here in terms of, you know, sticking to his mindset, sticking to the fact that he was saying, I'm going to win this, and I'm going to win around every now and again without falling into the power game, without falling into the money game. Can he do it? You can see he's already taken a big hit from hitting Conor Shanahan's car. That car held together now with hopes and dreams. Can he go to the final, or will McKeever prove too strong? Here we go.
McKeever to lead them in. McCarthy right there with them. And look at this, both drivers nailing that line. Now, can McCarthy keep the proximity? It looks like he certainly can. He's bringing the fight to McKeever here as McKeever switches back. Big dive from McCarthy down the inside.
McCarthy's bringing the fight here, Eddie, as they come out of that first hairpin. And look at McCarthy. He is not letting Dwayne McKeever get away from him here. Another big dive as he tries to put it on. You can see the track drying in places. Very difficult for these drivers to know where the grip is and where the grip isn't. Oh, and McCarthy's car is having problems. It's breaking down, it's misfiring, but he's staying in the fight. Oh. It looked like McCarthy did have some sort of an issue with the engine on the car that you could hear just missing a little bit. Oh, and he said it himself, he could win this thing if the car stayed going, but I'm not too sure. That was a good chase. I think he might take an advantage on this one.
Yeah, a very good chase from Paul McCarthy, but Dwayne doing a really good job in the lead run, allowing, making it easier.
So as they come around that first way, see our judges getting a good look at this on the replay. McCarthy stays with him the whole way through the track. McKeever's car, looking at it, you just see the patches of dry starting to appear now. And that's going to make it very difficult as it goes to the final here, because... So just before we get a decision on this one, as they go across the line, we're going to go into the pits. Ian, you're with Mitch Lerner.
Dave, I'm down in the pits with Mitch. Mitch, the drama keeps unfolding here for you at round 4 IDC. What's up, buddy?
I came into the first corner and Dennis made contact with me. Not too sure if it's because it all happened really fast, so I'm a bit unsure. It doesn't do anything. I'm a bit unsure if it's because I slowed down or if he was going too fast. It was all happened really fast, so it's bent the tyre rod, so we'll get it off. We've got another one there ready.
It's all go here in the pits, Dave. As you can see, these guys are trying really, really hard to get that car ready and back out for the next battle. It's back to you, Dave.
Yeah, Mitch Lerner, uphill battle there. As I said, people can analyse these replays like we can, but when it happens in the car, it happens within a split second, and you're not quite sure what's happened. So, as I said, Mitch there saying not sure if Dennis hit him, not sure if he over-rotated or slowed down. We go back to the second half, we've got a result in, and Paul McCarthy takes an advantage over Dwayne McKeever on the first run, guys.
Yeah, so McKeever's lead was actually pretty good. A few little mistakes, but solid lead run there. But McCarthy stuck with him all the way, and real impressive there for conditions. And obviously McKeever leaving a good gap for him to actually gain in, so giving McCarthy a reasonable advantage into the next run.
So a good advantage to Paul McCarthy here. Dwayne McKeever, if he wants to take a spot in the final, he is going to have to pull off something spectacular. You can see Mitch Lerner's against the clock on the 5-minute rule right now, Eddie. It's all go for that top spot on the podium or off the line. It will be McCarthy to lead in McKeever in a wet and dry track. Let's see what happens. Oh, McKeever makes a very late dive on McCarthy's door as McCarthy stays on that line. Both drivers perfect so far as Dwayne McKeever now starts to reel in. McCarthy as the track dries. Oh, McCarthy drops a wheel and McKeever makes a huge dive into the first hairpin.
Yeah, they almost come together there just as they switch back, but McKeever, showing his experience, just manages to get the nose of that car around without making contact with Paul McCarthy. But a gap starts to open up here.
It looks like Paul McCarthy is leaving McKeever for dead here, as McKeever cannot find an answer for McCarthy as they come around the last corner, and across the line they go.
Not the proximity that McKeever needed there, Dave. He needed to do something big.
I mean, you talk about coming out to an IDC event and everything just went haywire. And look at this, McKeever takes a very late dive in here, and he looks good though, very controlled. McCarthy on a great lead run here. McCarthy does drop a wheel as he transitions here. You'll see it here as he just washes that a little bit wide, drops the wheel, not a huge amount. McKeever doing a phenomenal job chasing into this, but this is where McCarthy looks like he's just got that little bit less wheel speed, which means he's got a little bit more grip as he takes it out of the corner. And not a lot of angle, and Dwayne McKeever, you know, trying to get himself back into the fight, but this for me was where it was. As he comes out here, Dwayne just bogs down a little bit there, and McCarthy extends a gap, but it doesn't have a huge amount of angle, so I'm not too sure what way the judges are going to look at it.
Yeah, I think that may be, you know, the important factor here is the lack of angle. So the scores are coming in, Dave.
Okay, so the scores are in. Will it be Dwayne McKeever going to the final? Will it be Paul McCarthy going to the final? Either way, guys, give them a round of applause. I'm going to tell you exactly who it is. It's actually neither of them. We're going for a one more run! We're going for a one more run, and Paul McCarthy nearly had a heart attack. Look up, we're going for a one more run. And who is the higher qualifier? It is, Dwayne McKeever qualified in 6th position and Paul McCarthy qualified in 7th position. So Dwayne McKeever will take the option here of whether he wants to lead or chase. And Paul McCarthy, and you see Paul McCarthy left him a little bit on that one, so we got to go back to the judges. Guys, you balance that one out. These guys are going tooth and nail out there.
Yeah, through the first corner, Paul was really good through the first 3 clips, but Dwayne was right on his door. So Dwayne had a good advantage for the first section. Dwayne's giving us a nice friendly wave there. And Paul has given us dirty looks because I think his car is in trouble. But anyway, so Dwayne has a sizable advantage through the first 3 clips. Dwayne gets slightly caught on the transition behind him because of his aggressiveness and hadn't loud enough for room for the transition. He kind of caught slightly, but he saved it and still had a good advantage coming into the first hairpin. But from there on, Paul's traction out of the first hairpin seems to be better than everybody else today, and he's able to pull away a little bit. So he pulled it like a car into there, and he did the same out of the second hairpin. So it ended up with a bit of separation. Dwayne still took a slight advantage, but it was the same as what it was the other way the first time. So it's a one more run.
So both drivers saying there is issues with both cars and both call a 5-minute rule. Eddie, we're going to go down to the pits. We're going to see if Ian, that means we have 3 cars in the top 4 now being worked on the clock to try and get them out here for a podium position.
Paul, you're through with a one more run against Dwayne McKeever for a place in the final. Problems with the car.
Tron cars full blown. I had intermittent misfires all day, and it just started misfiring completely. So it was run on 4 cylinders, but I just said I'd just give it everything I had, see what I could do. I thought Dwayne would get it, but one more run not ideal because I don't think we're going to solve the problem now, but we're just going to change what we can and go out and see what we can do.
Good luck, dude. Driving's been impeccable.
Thanks, man.
So Paul McCarthy saying the car not ideal because the car is broken. You can see everyone gathering around to see if they can fix that problem, which they've had trouble with all day. Mitch Lerner has 1 minute left, less than 1 minute left on the clock to get his car back out there. Could we see a Dennis Murphy, Dwayne McKeever final without seeing any more runs? I do not know. The guys are on the clock. It's incredible right now.
Yeah, and I mean, going into the final and the semi and the 3rd, 4th place playoff, Dennis Murphy will be the only driver left with a 5-minute to call.
Yeah, they all. Now it looks like Dwayne McKeever has given a thumbs up. That looks like Dwayne McKeever is good to go. So Dwayne McKeever is good to go. You can see it's now knife edge with Paul McCarthy. Whether they'll get that car fixed or not, it seems like Paul said he's going to run either way, whether the car is running on 4 cylinders or 6 cylinders.
Yeah, with the season he's had, he's going to want to take this to the podium if he has that opportunity. He's going to give it everything that he has, fight tooth and nail. He's not going to want to bow out at this point.
You can see Brother John there and all the guys working hard to try and make sure that car, they're taking out coil packs, they're taking out plugs, they're trying to make sure everything is 100%. Not sure. Oh, and word from the pits comes in that retiring from the competition is Mitch Lerner. So Dennis Murphy is going to the final. Dennis Murphy is going to the final. Mitch Lerner, unfortunately not able to make the 5-minute rule. Guys, can we get a huge round of applause for Mitch Lerner, the Australian? What a show he put on today. But unfortunately, a broken tie rod could not be fixed and aligned in time. Means that Dennis Murphy will make his first ever IDC final. And right now, Paul McCarthy looks like a wounded animal. If he goes into that one more run with Dwayne McKeever, and of course he will go in, we'll decide, have we a decision on whether Dwayne McKeever is leading or chasing? I would imagine he's going to try and chase, but then McCarthy has the pace, so I'm not sure. So our marshals here just checking down to the pits to see. So we're just checking to see what exactly Dwayne McKeever has chosen. And one of the best chase drivers in the game has chosen to chase. No surprise there, Eddie.
No, certainly not. No surprise there at all. Now we're just waiting to hear as well, while Mitch Lerner has retired from that battle, we just need to find out if he is retiring from the whole competition as a result of a turn 4-place playoff.
Absolutely. So if he was to retire from the whole competition, whoever lost between McCarthy and McKeever would take automatic 3rd place on the podium.
Yeah, because he may not have made the 5-minute rule, but what he was saying was that they did have a spare part for the car. So if it was just a case that it was a tie rod and they get it replaced, he has until the end of this battle.
Yeah, to basically get that car ready
for a third, 4th place playoff.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
Very
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on here. There's plugs and leads and clutches and tie rods and everything following. This is always the case in Watergrasshill when we get to the end of the competition.
Big bar.
There's a big bar. That's a strut bar, Eddie. Yeah. They're not hitting anyone with it. They're just putting it back on the car. So it looks like Paul McCarthy will run. Will the car run right? He said it's not running right. He said you can see he was a little deflated. He said it's unfortunate.
See the car taking its whey protein here.
Yep, put a bit of whey protein in there.
Help recovery.
Yeah. A bit of whey protein always helps recovery. This is cool. Yeah, my voice feels a bit like McCarthy's engine right now. There's not much left in it. And you can see Brother John there just tightening up the last of the plugs and making sure that car is ready to go. Let's hope he has a fighting chance because Dwayne McKeever will be chasing him down. It looks like it's an interesting one. If the car works, I think McCarthy has the pace to pull away from Dwayne McKeever when it's wet. However, the track is drying rapidly. Paul McCarthy beats the clock, guys. Give him a round of applause. Always remember that now when you go to your local mechanic and they say, I need to change the plugs, and they take 3 days, these guys are doing it in 4 minutes. So just, show them the IDC, tell them, I'll pay you 4 minutes of labor.
The only problem is, David, it might only last 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, McKeever's definitely ready to rock and roll here. We'll get word on Mitch Lerner in the next while. And it is going to be McCarthy to roll back out onto the start line. Does he have enough? Let's hope he has enough for a fair fight here, Eddie. So Mitch Lerner's team are still working on the car. He has not retired from the competition. He has retired from his semi-final. So if he can get the car fixed by the end of this battle, he will be eligible to go into the 3rd and 4th place playoff for the podium. What a day this guy is having.
Yeah, it's been a crazy day. He's not going to want to give up on the opportunity to go to the podium. I mean, that in itself is a victory. And it's all about coming out each round and just trying to progress, go that little bit further, and make progress. And he's certainly doing that, and he's certainly capturing the hearts of the Irish fans on the route.
You can see the car being worked on frantically there in the pits to make sure it can come out for the 3rd and 4th place playoff to get a chance at a trophy. If he does not get it out in time, then it will be an automatic win of the 3rd place for the loser of this battle. It's just too confusing. We'll just make it up as we go because there's so much happening. But right now, McKeever and McCarthy are on the line and ready to go. Does McCarthy have the car running enough to be in the lead position? Is the track dry enough for McKeever to be able to use his grip and power to take advantage? One run of the track is all they're going to get, and it's for a spot in the final. Here we go.
It will be McCarthy to lead in McKeever. In the one more run, they fire it through the first corner.
You can hear McCarthy's car is not sounding 100%, Eddie.
It's certainly not, but he's managing to get it right where it needs to be. But look at this from McKeever, biting down on his heels. the second one more run that he's been involved in this afternoon. But now look at this, a bit of an error from McKeever, and McCarthy starts to pull away. Could McCarthy do it? Could McCarthy take it all the way to the final?
It's running on about 4 or 5 cylinders, but he's still giving it everything it has. Could McCarthy make it to the final as he hammers the engine across the line?
What a story this would be as the car snaps, crackles, pops, and bangs its way.
Guys, give it up for Dwayne McKeever and Paul McCarthy.
Just looking back at the replay, it looked at the start, Dave, that just McCarthy was doing enough in his qualifying run, but or on the qualifying line, but McKeever was just biting down at the heels.
This
and
is where it
staying with
changed.
him, doing everything it needed. But here, look, a slight little error straightened from McKeever, and he loses so much ground.
I mean, McCarthy is just up and gone at this stage, and he's on that perfect qualifying line. Oh. Not a lot of proximity there. So proximity on the first half of the run from Dwayne, none on the second half. Let's see which way the judges go. And Kevin O'Connell just took a look over at me and said, and Dwayne McKeever they both put their helmets backwards and say, we don't know. Guys, once again, give it up. What a performance from Dwayne McKeever and Paul McCarthy. So, the judges saying that this is a tough one, and Kevin O'Connell's look to me was, what do we call it? They are analysing the replay again to have a look. So McKeever has the proximity on the first half of the run. McCarthy pulls a big gap on the second half of the run. So you can see Paul McCarthy already making his excuses there of why the car wasn't fast.
I have a feeling this will be very, very tight.
Yeah. Now remember, the winner, Mitch Lerner, only has until the end of this battle to get his car back ready again, remember, and that time is running out. Oh, it's tense. It's tense right now. The scores, they're still analysing it. So, it's going to be very, very close. But we have got a decision. And going through to the final of round 4 of the Irish Drift Championship and round 1 of the Drift Super Series is Paul McCarthy. Paul McCarthy gets the win and goes through to the final of round 4. Unbelievable stuff, and we'll see Dwayne McKeever battle it out for a third on the podium. And guys, Kevin, that face you made to me said it all. How tough a call was that?
Yeah, Dwayne initiates behind Paul. Paul's line down to 2 is good, barely gets clipped 2. But Dwayne is very close to him, so he has an advantage to the first section. Dwayne falls away very, very slightly on the transition, and it's still like a bare 6-4 to Dwayne as they come down into the first hairpin. But from the first hairpin, Dwayne then gets on an awful lot of angle, and it really slows up, and he finds it hard to get out of the hairpin, whereas Paul is already heading up the straight. And Paul pulls out a good enough gap to get a 6-4. So it's turned the other way. It's now 6-4 Paul. The only thing that does happen then is Paul comes down to the last hairpin. He has a bit of a straighten, and we had a big discussion here. We have to come up with a call on it. So we had a big discussion on whether it was enough to bring it back, but it could have only brought it back to a bare 5-5, and it was so slight that we just deducted 1 point for it, which brought it back to a 5.5. So it was 5.5 to Paul and a 4.5 to Dwayne. Very, very close. That's how we scored it.
There you go, Dave, splitting hairs.
Splitting hairs and grey hairs nearly by the end of today with the amount of calls they've had to make here. It's always easy to watch on when your opinion doesn't matter if you're online or here saying, oh, I think he won, but you don't have to make the decision. When you do, and you have to make it in front of so many people, you have to be sure it's right. And Paul McCarthy, you heard the car leave here, Eddie. It is in ribbons. It's on like 3 or 4 cylinders, and he's into the final now against Dennis Murphy. Had it called from the start again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know.
We've had Tomas Kiley, Shane O'Sullivan, and Jack Shanahan go out in the top 16. We have Dwayne McKeever now jumping into the 3rd and 4th place. Those are the guys you look at as favourites, but what a day it would be. Paul McCarthy and Dennis Murphy in the final.
I mean, what a day it's been for Dennis Murphy. First time he'll have ever been in this position. McCarthy's been there before, but he's got a car now that's not really working well, supposedly not working well, but it's doing enough to get him around the course and get him into a final. Mitch Lerner there and the guys working tirelessly trying to get this car ready, but I'm just not sure. I don't hold much hope. Once Dwayne McKeever can get to the line, that's it.
Once Dwayne McKeever comes back out to the line, if Mitch Lerner is not ready to go, he has no 5-minute rule to call here. So essentially, he is going to be basically defaulting 3rd place on the podium to Dwayne McKeever if he can't get out of the pit area in time. Dwayne McKeever has the allocated time to change his tyres from his semi-final to the 3rd and 4th place playoff, and if he arrives onto the track, not to the track but to the start line, and there is no Mitch Lerner, then Mitch Lerner will automatically take 4th and Dwayne McKeever will take 3rd.
And McKeever shouldn't really have used a whole lot of tyres
since
his last battle, and you can just see him now making his way onto the track, so it looks as though that is good night for Mitch Lerner, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it will be, his time will run out here if Dwayne McKeever comes to the line, which of course Dwayne can't hang around. He can't choose to stay in the pits. He has to return to the line. And once he returns to the line, he will automatically take the first half of this battle. So obviously he will be taking a run, and Mitch Lerner is in the car. So I'm not too sure if it's going to be possible for him to make it, and Dwayne McKeever will be sent from the line essentially, and Mitch Lerner could join the second half of the battle, but right now he is not where he needs to be. And Dwayne McKeever moves on to the start line, which means he will be sent by our start line marshal, and there is Mitch Lerner, who cannot get onto the track right now and get his car fixed in time. So heartbreaking stuff for Mitch Lerner, but that is what it is, right? At the end of the day, he's battled so hard today. And Dwayne McKeever, look, he's even trying to stall time here for Mitch Lerner by putting on his helmet at the last minute and all that kind of stuff, but there's only so much time he can allocate before the marshals will send him from the start line, and he will take the automatic 10-0 in the first run. So Dwayne McKeever will be sent from the line. You can see Mitch Lerner, the car not even close to being ready right now. You see the split screen from our live stream team, and McKeever does take off the line to take the 10-0 on the first run. And you can see right there just the dismay of Mitch Lerner in the pits, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, look, this isn't what we wanted to see, and we have these rules in place for scenarios such as this, and you really have to feel for Mitch Lerner, because it looked as though today was going to be one of his best opportunities, definitely the best opportunity he's had so far, but there's going to be another day for Mitch Lerner, you can guarantee it. Just missing out on a podium, it's sickening really, but
yeah, the track's starting to dry up quite a bit now for the final, Eddie, is what I'm noticing. A lot of smoke being made. And Dwayne McKeever finishes with a flurry across the line. And it looks like he may have to, if he goes back to the line, it will be an automatic win for him. Automatic win and taking 3rd place on the podium. We could even have a little bit half of a dry track here for the final. Dennis Murphy and Paul McCarthy try and pick a winner there, Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't even have a wheel here on the car, so by the time Dwayne gets back to...
Yeah, I think we could call this a 3rd place win for Dwayne McKeever at this point in time. Guys, round of applause for Dwayne McKeever. Fought through it all today, and unfortunately, can we get a huge round of applause for Mitch Lerner? That guy has had one hell of a day at the races, and it looks like Dwayne McKeever will take 3rd position on the podium. So we will go immediately to the final. Guys, once again, a big round of applause for the Australian Mitch Lerner. Couldn't make it out onto the track, and of course we have to wait for that bloody streak to be beaten another day.
Yes.
It never ends. Never ends. And it is going to be Dennis Murphy and Paul McCarthy that protected this weekend, which is fantastic to see. Some guys out there that really just drove their heart out today and showed that anytime, at any place, anyone can win.
Yeah, you know, these two guys have really shone today. Paul McCarthy, he's battled against, you know, mechanical issues. That engine just not running right for him, but it may not be running on all cylinders, but it's certainly running enough to get him into a final.
It sounds
Dennis
terrible.
Murphy has been on exceptional form, but I would not attempt to even pick a winner here.
Watergrasshill, it's the last battle of the day. Make some noise. Have you guys had a good time? Definitely do not say you didn't expect the unexpected this weekend, because we've seen it gone every single which way, but one of these guys will take the win. Will it be Dennis Murphy, who has just skyrocketed today right up through the board, or will it be Paul McCarthy, who's fighting tooth and nail to still be there? It is the final of IDC Round 4 and Round 1 of the Drift Super Series. It's McCarthy versus Murphy. This is it, 2 runs to get the job done. Who's going to take top spot? McCarthy to lead him in.
McCarthy leads them in, but Murphy is right there with him and makes the dive down the inside. Oh, dropping wheels is Dennis Murphy. But Dennis Murphy keeping in the fight here now, needs to make a dive. Oh, they make contact. Would you believe it? We've seen it all today. Contact. McCarthy is offline and shuts it down.
Yeah, big hit there it actually was Paul McCarthy trying to go back on power, and it was actually a pretty big hit from Dennis Murphy there. We'll see it here on the replay. He just shot into the door of McCarthy's car, trying to, made a little error here. Look, just hops the front wheel, loses a bit of ground, and he just goes for a huge dive here, Eddie, and it was a little bit too much.
Yeah, I think, nerves and adrenaline may be playing a part in this for Dennis Murphy. His first time in this situation, Dave, and, a huge opportunity for him to take his first ever IDC win. They do not come around very often, and they are not easily achieved.
No, and I mean, if Paul McCarthy can win an event, not only with, sub, 350 horsepower, maybe 350 horsepower at that, if he can do it on 4 or 5 cylinders and fight through everybody, including Dwayne McKeever, to win this event, well, if that isn't hope for any single person in this championship, then what is? He's never changed himself, he's never changed his mindset, he never chased the power, he never chased all the money. He said, I'm just going to drive my heart out and hopefully it works out. Well, he's halfway there as he takes a 10-0 advantage, Paul McCarthy. Can it be turned around? Can Murphy turn it around? Or will he have to settle for second place? It's the last run of the day. Here we go. McCarthy and Murphy. Into the first corner they go. And Paul McCarthy has a big issue. Paul McCarthy has a huge issue. McCarthy and Murphy goes off the track. And McCarthy's back in it. It's all over the place. And now they're back in the mix as now Murphy starts to put on the power through the hairpin. It's just too hard to call the wet and the dry. So much grip dialed into the cars and the track, almost nearly bone dry, and Murphy goes wide again. But McCarthy gets caught on the inside and straightens up badly, makes another big dive. It's messy, it's tough on the cars, and they're over the line.
That is the most mental final I think I've ever witnessed.
I have no idea what way they're going to call this. I have no idea. Guys, give them a huge round of applause. Now, next up, we're going to ask our judges if they have a decision. If we have a decision, we're going to welcome all of you guys down onto the track here in Watergrasshill. We're going to welcome you all down onto the track. And all you guys who are standing in front of the clubhouse, stay where you are. We're going to congratulate these guys. Eddie, it looks like we have a decision. I'm going to grab the piece of paper, head to the podium. I'm not too sure which way it's going to go. I'm just going to talk to our head judge, Kieran Hines, get the information. Eddie, what a day.
Yeah, Dave, it really has been fantastic today. The weather, it got a little bit involved and tried to ruin it for us, but, the action that's unfolded on this track today has been incredible. But not to mention just today, even yesterday, we saw some incredible driving from our Pro-Am drivers. They fought tooth and nail. They had the perfect conditions that we didn't maybe get. And Paul McCarthy drives off and drops his helmet. But, it's been one hell of a weekend. This track has not disappointed us. We've seen wonderful battles. We've seen some people fight through awful mechanical difficulties, and it really has just been a tough event on the cars, a tough event on the drivers as well. But they have come through it. And, we have set up perfectly now for our Super Series and for our final round in September in Mondello Park for Japfest. The championship is still wide open. Our championship contenders dropping out very early, but you know, with 1 round to go, it all hangs in the balance. We want to thank all our sponsors who've come on board. Stone Motorsport, Origin Labo, Achilles Radial, Westlake Tires, MixGarage.com, Brian James Trailers, Zestino Tires, JDM Distro, VP Racing Fields, Samco Sport, The Detailing Shed, Monster Energy, who have been fueling Irish drifting since the birth of the sport here, Link Engine Management, and of course to all of you guys in attendance and watching online at home. This sport would not be possible without all your support. We want to thank you. But the only thing left to do now is announce our podium, and to do that I'm going to hand over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Eddie. What a day of drifting, what a day of unpredictable results. Before we give out these trophies, can I get a huge round of applause for all of you guys for braving the weather today and staying here in Watergrasshill. You've been an amazing crowd. Can I also get a huge round of applause for all of our IDC marshals and team for braving the weather today. Phenomenal job, guys. Give them a big round of applause. But I have the all-important piece of paper. And taking 3rd position on the podium, we give it up for Dwayne McKeever. That leaves us to decide our final, and I had it picked from the start. I can announce that taking 2nd position on the podium is Dennis Murphy! That means your winner of round 4 of IDC and the current points leader in IDC Super Series with BDC is Paul McCarthy! Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Series continues in Driftland, Scotland in 2 weeks. We're back for the final of IDC in Japfest in September. Give it up for Dwayne McKeever, Dennis Murphy, and your winner, Paul McCarthy! Well, that is it from us here at the IDC. We hope you have a safe trip home. If you guys have been tuning in online, thanks for checking out the IDC. We're back for the IDC, as I mentioned, in Japfest in September. It's all shaken up now from us at the IDC team. Once again, congratulate your 3 top finishers. Your winner, Paul McCarthy, and we'll see you guys at an IDC round soon.